Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Michael Speck. I'm the supervisor of the town of Ramapo. I have with me to my right, I have Chief Brad Wydell, who is the chief of the Ramapo Police Department, and we have State Senator David Carlucci, Chief Barbera from the Sheriff's Department, Michael Rossman, Town Councilman, Evan Bernstein from the Anti-Defamation League, County Executive Ed Day, Executive Assistant District Attorney Rich Moran, County Legislator Tony Earl, and David Wanunu, Town of Ramapo Councilman. We called this press conference due to the horrific crime that occurred at approximately 5:40 this morning in Monsey. At that time, a 30-year-old man who was a town resident was walking to synagogue on Howard Drive in the hamlet of Monsey in the town of Ramapo, and he was brutally attacked and stabbed by one or more perpetrators. He was very critically wounded. An ambulance was called. At first, the belief was that he was the victim of a car accident, and then upon arriving, they realized that he had been the victim of a stabbing or a slashing. The victim is currently undergoing surgery in Westchester Medical Center. His condition is critical, and all of our thoughts are with him and his family at this time, and we're wishing him a full and complete recovery. I have full confidence that our outstanding police department will not stop until they have done their utmost to bring the person or persons responsible for this heinous crime to justice. We've had offers of help from multiple other agencies and jurisdictions throughout the county and beyond, offering assistance in this investigation. And at this time, I'd just like to thank everyone who has helped. In a moment, I'm going to turn this over to Chief Wydell to give some further information about what we know at this point about this crime. There's been speculation as to the incidents, the identity of the victim or the perpetrators or motive on social media and otherwise. At this point, the chief will tell you what the actual facts are. We would ask people not to engage in speculation. If anyone has given unauthorized press statements or conferences that did not come or was not authorized by either myself or the police chief or anyone on behalf of the town or its law enforcement agency. The town of Ramapo is one of the safest towns in the United States. We're committed to keeping it that way. We are committed to ensuring the safety of every resident of our entire community. Until further notice, there will be additional and enhanced police patrols throughout the area to ensure the public safety. And at this time, I will turn the microphone over to Chief Wydell.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So the supervisor covered most of the critical points of the investigation as it stands right now. I'd like to reiterate our thanks to our partners on the local, county, and state level for their offers of assistance in this investigation. This is obviously a massive investigation for our agency, and I would like to just say this, that I feel that our department is certainly capable, as any department is, of solving a case such as this with help from others, and we're not going to shy away from getting that assistance. It's a very difficult time right now because much of the information that we are working with, I just am not in a position to share because we do not want to compromise anything we're doing. And as the supervisor alluded to, there's a lot of information being pushed out in the community that, although some of it may be accurate, it's not necessarily verified, and it's not necessarily related to the actual incident. So speculation is one thing that we and the police department will not engage in this case. As the supervisor said, this initially started with a report of a pedestrian struck by a car, and obviously when our officers got to the scene, it was quickly realized that it was in fact an assault, and a very violent and vicious one at that. Our victim, what I could tell you was he was walking to the synagogue on Howard Place, and he was approached from behind by at least one or maybe more individuals, and he was assaulted and stabbed more than once. I don't know what kind of weapon was used, and I don't have recovery of a weapon at this time. One of the things that there's been a lot of questions on behalf of the community and representatives is about the status of this as a hate crime. And what I will tell you is, at this point, as we stand here right at this moment in time and speak, I am not willing to say that this is a hate crime. That doesn't mean that it won't be established through investigation that it was in fact a hate crime. But we must be very prudent and deliberate in our investigation, and we must fulfill the statutory requirements of the Penal Code, Section 48505. And what I would specifically say to you is, if you look at 48505 subsection 2, it clearly indicates that simply because we have proof of somebody's religious belief or perceptions, that in and of itself does not necessarily mean we have a hate crime. We have to establish motivation and intent, and we're just not there yet, is what I'm saying. We are doing everything that we can. Our detectives, working with other agencies, they're not here now. They're out working this case very hard. I am greatly appreciative of the support of the community in this case and community organizations. I want to specifically call out Havarum for helping our organization, meaning our department, in working within the community to try to obtain different pieces of evidence. Obviously, one of the things we'd be looking for would be video. And I would ask that anybody from the community or anybody in the town who has any information or anything that they would like to share with us, or those who are reporting firsthand information without reporting it to us, are encouraged to come to the police and share with us what they're saying to others. It's really important in a case like this to keep the community informed about the facts without unnecessarily indicating things and without saying things with no basis. And that's what we're going to do very hard on our part to prevent. That being said, after the press conference today, through our Facebook page, we will continue to push out reliable information as we feel it's appropriate to release. And I think at this point I'm going to turn it over to, I'm not sure who's going to speak next, probably the county executive or the state senator, Carlucci. I'm not sure. I'll let you guys decide that. But I appreciate your time very much, and I'll be off to the side for any questions maybe later.
Good afternoon. First of all, I want to make one thing clear. As a former police commander, I'm well aware of the capabilities of the Ramapo Police Department and also all the agencies that will help the Ramapo PD in getting to the bottom of this, and they will get to the bottom of this. Chief Weidel's counsel is intelligent, it's smart, it does not compromise any integrity on anybody's part, but it's critically important that they be given the time and the effort to find out exactly what occurred and why it occurred, and then they will go from there. As a county executive, I would just say this: one incident does not define a community. It is critically important also to understand that this gentleman is going through a lot of pain right now, as is his family. It is something that the people of Rockland join in to basically say in one voice that we will not tolerate violence of this nature in any quarter of our county. We condemn it in its loudest terms. So I just want to offer my thoughts and prayers right now for the family, that he pull through this, get better, and also that that the department have all the tools necessary to get to the bottom of this, so we can have a full and complete prosecution of whoever people were involved in this heinous crime. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Senator David Carlucci, representing Rockland and Westchester counties in the New York State Senate, and I too want to stand shoulder to shoulder with the community, with our law enforcement, with Chief Weidel, and saying that we will never tolerate violence or hate of any kind in our community. And I know that we have one of the best police departments in the country, in the Ramapo Police Department, and they will get to the bottom of this investigation and do it swiftly. And we stand ready to stand with the community to do whatever we can to make sure that the community feels safe, that we are not feeling intimidated or threatened in any kind. And I know law enforcement will be there on heightened alert to make sure that our community, no matter what your race, religion, gender, that you feel protected and safe here in Ramapo and in Rockland County. Thank you.
At this time, we'll take any questions. Bear in mind there may be limits on what information we can give at this time, but we would welcome any questions that there are.
Chief Waddell, the victim reportedly made some remarks to first responders. Can you elaborate on that? We were told that he had indicated 2 people got out of the vehicle, assaulted him, and then drove away.
I can't confirm that. I cannot confirm that.
Could you comment at all on the scene? According to first responders, was the victim coherent and alert?
When I was at the scene, he was already gone. When our officers were at the scene, he was in the ambulance. He was already on his way to Westchester. So we have not had a lot of conversation with the victim. Of course, he's under surgery right now.
Can you elaborate at all in regards to his injuries? How many times he might have been stabbed, et cetera?
What I can say is more than once. And as I said earlier, this is a vicious, violent attack. But beyond that, I can't go.
Chief, for those of us who haven't been on Howard, the street where it happened, can you describe it? Is it dimly lit? Are there light poles? Or just, we haven't gone there yet.
Yeah. It's a very quiet, really peaceful residential neighborhood that happens to have a synagogue in it. It's just residential homes. Lighting is typical of a suburban neighborhood. That's, I guess, the best I could tell you.
What do we know of the victim other than that he's a 30-year-old teacher? Is he a father? Is he married?
So, what I would say is, at this point, we are doing everything we can to protect the privacy of our victim and his family. Obviously, we don't want to compromise in any way this investigation, and certainly we're going to want to speak with him when he recovers from surgery. So I do have information about the victim, and we certainly know who he is, but just at this moment in time, we're not releasing any information to identify him or his family.
How did the call come through originally? Was it a bystander, someone who witnessed the attack? Was he able to call for help himself?
Our victim was not able to call for help. The call originally came in as a pedestrian struck by a vehicle. How that call was generated is also something that is subject of our investigation.
If there's anybody here representing the Jewish community, is there any reaction that you have, any reaction that you'd like to take?
Well, this time we have Evan Bernstein, who is the director of the Anti-Defamation League. I'd like to have him speak.
Thank you. I also thank you to the leadership, chief, supervisor, and all the other electeds. The ADL, is a national organization. We are certainly not here on the ground daily in this part of New York, but we represent all of New York, and we are here to support the Jewish community as much as possible. There are many wonderful Jewish leaders here from this community who can also speak. I think for us, speaking on behalf of the overall Jewish community that's seen a tremendous uptick in anti-Semitism, and we know that this act has not been defined yet as a bias act, but the fact that we've seen so many unfortunate acts of hate and attacks towards the Orthodox community here in New York, especially in New York City, it makes us take pause when something like this happens, and that is why we want to help law enforcement as much as possible. And we're going to be offering a $10,000 reward for any information that can help with the arrest of the person involved or persons involved in this horrific act towards this individual. But again, what the community right now is going through here is in the fear, unfortunately, that a lot of the Jews are feeling right now across this country, specifically the Orthodox population, those that are openly Jewish, is very palpable and very real, and I think needs to be well understood, because this is not, even though this incident has not been defined, there's been very similar types of assaults and incidents that have taken place, and that fear and the climate has certainly changed, and we need to be aware of that. Thank you.
I'd like to also just acknowledge we have a representative of the Jewish Federation present, and we have 2 more of our county legislators who represent the people of the town of Arapahoe are here, Aaron Weider and Phil Soskin.
Question for Chief Riddell. I know that you have to tread lightly when it comes to motive for obvious reasons, but can you give us sort of an overview of the possibilities that you're considering? And to the extent that you're able, tell us where the facts have led you thus far.
Well, if we talk about hate crime specifically, first thing you need to have is a qualifying offense or an offense that meets the standard, meaning a criminal act, which in this case, that first part of the burden is met. The viciousness of this assault and this, what I believe clearly, it was an attempt at murder is the way I see it. And I think that in a case like that, clearly, that's the first part. The second part is that little connection to motivation because of the religious belief or background of somebody. We must make that connection. And if we can do that, then we've established our burden. The people of us, I can go to the district attorney at that point and say, we believe we have enough probable cause to believe that a hate crime was committed. But we need both. We can't have one or the other. We need both. And that's the struggle that any law enforcement agency goes through when they have a crime like this in a religious community. You know, could it be a hate crime? Of course. But we have a legal obligation and a legal burden that we must fulfill. And so, I don't know if that answers.
Robbery? Could it be, what are the other possibilities?
Personal dispute?
There's a lot of possibilities, which is why we are being very careful and being very prudent and very diligent to try to establish what we believe was the motivation for this assault. And until we know that, it could be any of those or a combination of the above. We just don't know.
Was anything taken from the victim?
Was anything taken from the victim? I don't believe there's anything that was taken from the victim. But again, remember, he is unconscious. He's in surgery. We haven't had an opportunity to speak with him. Sir, in the back. Is this for me?
Is there surveillance footage at all? Do we have any descriptions? Are we looking for vehicle, make, model, any descriptions on suspects?
There has been some video footage that we've obtained in the area at the time of the event. We are looking at that. Again, we want to make sure that that footage that we see is in fact footage that we could connect to the crime. Some of it I wish was better quality, I will say that. But again, maybe with help from our partners at the state or federal level, maybe we can get some enhancements of some videos once we get them all together. But right now what we're trying to do is make sure we're not missing anything. We want to get to every location we possibly can to see if anybody has any video to preserve it. And then we will begin that process of working through the video. Yes, Steve?
I know you don't want to speculate, but given the recent climate in Rockland County, political climate, the elections, videos attacking the Hasidic Jewish community, East Ramapo's lawsuit in which the NAACP is basically saying the board is constituted on racial grounds. Is that at least a possibility in your mind? Are you considering all those factors?
I'm not considering that as a factor.
Which,
What you just said,
okay.
okay? I'm not. I'm looking at the facts on the ground, Steve. And that's what I'll focus on. And I'm not going to speculate on, you know, those other areas that you mentioned.
Excuse me, I just want to circle
Yes.
back. You mentioned there was surveillance footage that was obtained. I also saw reports that 2 cars or a vehicle in the area looked suspicious, according to neighbors. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Oh, I'm not sure what neighbors you talk to. And what I would tell you is any information like that, if we had it, we would be looking at it. If we have information about a vehicle, trust me when I tell you, we'll be trying to track that down. You know, if we get to the point that we can tell you that we're very confident that this particular vehicle was used in this particular event, then we're going to push that information out. But what we're not going to do is say we're looking for a particular vehicle, and then all of a sudden it turns out 3 days later it's a different vehicle. And if you go back to the DC sniper case, that's exactly what happened. You know, you're looking for a white van when it was a blue Impala. Well, we're not going to do that. We're going to make sure that whatever we push out is factual. That's what we're trying to do.
Can you say you're looking for a vehicle?
We're looking for the way that they got to the scene and left the scene.
Chief, any message to members of the Hasidic community who might be
I hear them loud and clear. That's my message, and that's the message of the men and women of this department, and the men and women of the Sheriff's Department, and all the other police agencies that serve this community here. We are doing everything we can to reassure them and work with them. We're providing extra patrols. There's a lot of different ways that we can assist the community, and we're doing that. But I definitely hear them, and I just would say to the community is we're doing everything we can. We need the community to call us. If there's something that doesn't seem right or doesn't look right, they shouldn't hesitate. They should call right away, and we will do everything we can. You know, time works against us. So in these cases, if somebody sees something, whether it's related to this or any crime or potential crime, we need them to pick up the phone and call us right away. And they shouldn't wait. They should be reassured that we will respond and do the best job we can to keep them safe. Okay?
Chief,
Thank you. Yes, last question, sir.
Chief, you said the call came in initially as a pedestrian struck. Do you know if the department got one phone call, multiple phone calls, and did the person stick around and make the call, and was it made from the scene?
There's a lot of questions there. Okay, I don't, so I do not know how many calls we received. It may have in fact been only that call. We are trying to verify if we received any other calls, and if any other agencies received any calls. So what was the other part of your question?
Well, you're still trying to figure that out.
Right.
From someone, do you know right now if it was made from the scene? Was someone driving by and saw?
I believe it was made from the area of the scene. Yes.
Did they
Okay.
stay on scene?
We have been able to identify the caller. So, okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. At this time, we're going to close the press conference, but I think some of our legislators do want to give a statement or speak to the press, so they're here if you'd like to listen to them. Thank you, everybody.
Phil speak. Howard is, I believe, in your district.
My name is Phil Soskin, and I live within the district. I'm a resident here for 50 years. We've really never had something like this happen. First of all, I want to assure the community that our police, Chaverim, and there are many private security groups who patrol the area. So I want to assure you that our local police are doing all that they can. The community is a residential area. It's primarily Jewish. There are many synagogues in the area, and it seems very strange that something like this would happen here. I'd love to call it a hate crime, and I'd hate to call it a hate crime, because we don't need this in our community. I was stationed overseas with the Army in France and Germany for 2 years, and I saw writings all over the wall, and I heard comments. Americans go home, and all sorts of nasty words, as well as Jews go home. Ramapo has become a problem area based upon rhetoric. Young people are not conservative enough. I just hope and pray that the individual who was assaulted has a quick recovery and can return to his life. All I know about it is what the police have told us. Just be diligent and vigilant. If you see something unusual, call the police. That's the best way to solve this. And all of us are very infuriated by what's going on in our area. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Legislator Soskin. Thank you, Fellow Supervisor Specht, and I would like to thank Chief for his work, and in particularly for taking a very calm, systematic, laser approach on this incident. And we will get to the bottom of this, one way or the other. This will not go under without knowing what happened. Now, I fully agree with the chief that we shouldn't speculate. We should only talk about the facts and what happened. And that's very important. So let's talk about the facts. I'm glad that the media picked up. We don't have fake news in the town of Ramapo, and they do pick up on things happening here. Currently was an election. Regular folks in Rockland County have put out lawn signs and yard signs that said the following. You're not going to believe it, for those who were not in Rockland County. Beat the block. Those signs are probably still out there on people's lawns. I'll speak about the facts. The facts are that Orthodox religious Jews in Rockland County have fear, real angst. They fear walking on the streets at times. They fear walking in the shopping malls. That's a fact. How do I know that? Because they're my people. I live amongst themselves. They are my friends, family, wife, and children, and grandchildren. Let's talk about the facts. The facts are that there has been, for a few years since a certain elected official got elected in Rockland County, a systematic hate social media campaign where comments appear as following: those people, they are parasites, and so on and so forth, alluding to the Orthodox Jewish community in Rockland County. So we are so glad that the media is out here, and they're out here for a reason. There are, unfortunately, in our country, many stabbings, many crimes, but we have the media out here in the town of Ramapo on a Wednesday afternoon because an Orthodox Jewish person was attacked, and that's a fact too. Again, I hope and I pray that this individual will make a speedy recovery, come back home to his wife and family, and things will get better, and he will be the last person being attacked in the town of Ramapo. Thank you very much.
Sir, can we get your name?
My name is Aaron Weider, A-R-O-N W-I-E-D-E-R. I'm a Rockland County Legislator, District 13.
Aaron, before you go, when you first heard about this, were you angry? Did you cry? Just what was your own personal reaction when you heard the news of what happened to you? If you don't mind sharing it with us.
2 words: fear. It started. Those are the 2 things that came into my mind. I might be wrong. Hopefully I am. But those were the 2 things that literally entered in my mind when I got the first text message from a law enforcement. Was fear, and then, oh my, it started. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Steve Gold. I'm co-president of the Jewish Federation and Foundation of Rockland County. Jewish Federation has a group called the Community Relations Council, where we monitor hate incidents throughout the county, not just Jewish, but whether it's Muslims, whether it's the African American community. We do what we can do with the local law enforcement to make sure that these crimes are taken seriously. Over the past year, the Community Relations Council has been involved with many incidents of hate, anti-Semitism in this county. When we were notified this morning about this incident, we immediately got together through email to discuss what we need to be done. We reached out to law enforcement and to our elected officials, and we're happy that they are responding, that they're taking this very seriously, and we do believe that they will get to the bottom of this. But rest assured, I hope this is the last incident, what we're gonna have here in Rockland County like this. But with the environment that is going on in this county, I'm sad to say that it won't be the last. You know, when I heard about it this morning, you know, someone asked Aaron what was his first thought, and my first thought was, never again. My parents were survivors of the concentration camps, and that's the first thing that hits my mind, that the stories they told me, what it was like to be a Jew, and how scared it was to be a Jew, came back to my mind first. And that shouldn't be at all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again, everybody.